Missouri State will be a new team in college football and a part of the next college football game. So I've put the Bears into their new conference, and I want to rebuild them in a way that I haven't done with any team yet on College Football 25. See, as a newcomer, Missouri State doesn't compare well to other FBS programs, but their prestige is the most important thing to note because as long as they're a one-star school, I can only recruit one-star prospects. Let's say we win our conference championship 7 years from now though, and we get up to a 2-star prestige, then I can go after 2-star prospects and so on after that. I'm aware it's going to make this rebuild super difficult, but I'm going until we win a championship, turning this roster into something so much better. And considering at positions like quarterback, our best starter is going to be a 59 overall. My first task has been finding recruits to go after, but I don't think there's anything too exciting about these one-star prospects. At the moment, LaMichael Gideon's supposed to be our future quarterback only because he has the field general ability. His stats are atrocious, 65 medium accuracy. And then Taven Swoop at running back is the one gem that we found, but he still only has 89 speed. We're going to be stuck going after one-star prospects for a while as well. You can take a look at our schedule. At least it's not too challenging, but you all know how I do these rebuilds. It's always on the hardest difficulty. And since Missouri State came up from the FCS level, I'd love if we could beat a team from there. They went like 8-4 at the FCS level this past season, so it's not like they're terrible. We're just having a hard time moving the ball. And you should be able to see that. We have not scored here in the third quarter. Halfback screen doesn't work either. But our defense keeps on putting us in some really good positions, and right here we're going to go to the one. It might take us all 4 quarters, but we will find the end zone. And if we're going to win a game this season, it has to be this one. Things have started to look a lot better as well because we'd even score another touchdown, but they've driven down to the red zone where we're getting a sack. And it's such a big deal that they've decided to settle for 3 that they barely made. We could run out the clock versus them, though we didn't even have a chance there to get the ball out. And I guess I'd much rather throw it on 3rd and 12 where we are going to have them beat deep. I don't know why they thought Markin wasn't going to be that quick, but Juan Burns put it right where it had to be, and even if we don't get this first down, the game's over, but we got a touchdown. It feels good to know that we're not going to go winless this year, but knowing how bad this roster is, I can pretty much guarantee this will be the only time we win this season. At some point in this video, I'm sure we'll take down our new in-state rivals, the Tigers, but at least for now, whenever we try, I'm just hoping to avoid getting blown out by 50. Although it didn't necessarily go well, we're only down by 30 as we approach the end of the game, and that is going to be the last play. So you can tell we were struggling to get stops throughout this entire matchup, but it's completely fine. We got our quarterback with the field general ability, and if you just take a look at the rest of our schedule, there's not going to be a harder opponent than that one. By now, you've probably noticed that Delaware has also joined us in Conference USA. They're coming up the same year as Missouri State. So we're both just trying to figure out how we can maintain some success at the FBS level now. And unfortunately, against Liberty, this is exactly what I thought would happen. They had triple the amount of total yards on offense. When it comes to recruiting, now that we're starting to sign some of these one-star skill positions that I was going after to open up this year, we can put more players on our board and just get in as many numbers as possible. The main reason for that is this roster is not young. We only have 7 sophomores and 5 freshmen on it. And without any young talent to be excited about, I've had no issues just simming throughout this year. You're going to see we're currently sitting at 1-8, which does put us at the very bottom of our conference, but Delaware is close by, so maybe we could beat them. Even if they are better on paper, I feel like this is one that's worth a shot. And what I've ended up figuring out is our offense is going to be rough for a long time. I feel like throughout this season, it just got worse and worse. So it makes sense that we lost our final 2 games of the season. And you might think that Juan Burns' season stats at quarterback were atrocious, but I have seen many more interceptions than this. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're still bad. We did nothing whenever it came to running the ball. Our receivers, no one really stood out. But that's okay, because throughout the course of this season, we've unlocked 65 coach points to spend. I'm not sure if I need to go down the recruiter tree since we're only going after one-star prospects. And I've had no issue landing them so far. I think it would be better if all of our players developed as fast as possible, so we're probably going to try to get to tier 3 on every position. It's going to take us a while to pull that off, but at least for our defense, put in work tier 3 has been unlocked for everything. And I probably should have fired both of these coordinators. I can definitely promise that by the end of next season, they're going to be gone. And so are some of these seniors that didn't contribute to more than 1 win. Nobody transferred out though, which is weird given the state of the program. And I can't believe what I'm seeing, but there are a couple 1-star transfers that would be willing to consider coming to Missouri State. I had no issue signing either of them. We had a full class of 35 prospects. Not that they're any good, but we have a full class. And until we can get our team prestige up to a 2-star so we can go after 2-star prospects as well, we're always going to finish with the worst class. Things really aren't looking too good for us either because the guy I thought that was going to start for us at quarterback's only a 55 overall. And I know for a fact that with some of these training results, we're going to have a better option there. It'll be Dylan Peterson as a 6'2 68 overall junior. Now this kid has 59 speed, so he's not somebody I'm too excited about. He also has 67 deep throw accuracy, but maybe we'll be able to make him a little bit better. We've gotten some more coach points, so we can unlock the tactician tree, and then we can unlock all of these boosts to the passing game stats, which include stuff like short and medium accuracy. I can also spend the remaining 45 coach points getting to put in work tier 3 in this motivator tab for every position besides kicker and punter. We don't need them to progress as fastly as everything else. And I'm really just glad that we have that one positive takeaway from last season. I'm also going to redshirt pretty much every freshman unless they need to start. So it's safe to say the team taking the field for us this year is going to be very similar to the one that we put out there last year. And as we start to stack up a little bit more and building youth here at Missouri State, I can focus in a little bit more on finding the best one-star recruits, which is still a big challenge. Every so often though, you will find some one-star quarterbacks that have stats way better than the rest of them, and that is what we have with Bobby Bloom. 90 throw power, much higher accuracies. So we're going after him. We're also going after a couple running backs, a couple wide receivers, and I'm glad that all those battles are going our way because we lost our first 2 games of the season on the road at top 25 programs. Our next matchup though is against that same FCS school that we took down last year for our only win, and I thought that Peterson being out there could potentially help us, but with his 59 speed, I can't scramble. He does not fit my play style, the play style I want to have at Missouri State, and I think that's the only reason we have not been able to pull away even midway through the third quarter. His passing meters are also hard to make accurate throws in. This kick is just going to go in, and as we get closer to the end of the game, you're going to see that we still have a lead, but it's only by 5 and they're driving down the field. With 26 seconds left on the clock, we are going to have to stop them, and they're going to continue to run. But quarterback DJ Dilworth can't do that anymore. They've burned through all their timeouts, and we're going to get the interception with Macklin, so we're getting a win over FCS Midwest 2 years in a row. I will admit, these games are more competitive than I would like since we moved up another level, but there are some good FCS teams out there, and that's what we're facing. I am not enjoying the Dylan Peterson show though, which is why I'm relieved that Bobby Bloom has committed, and I don't think it would hurt us to see what happens whenever we hop into a conference game. Kennesaw State is another team that moved up recently. They've just had a little bit more time to adjust, and I have a feeling that if we're going to come back down 20-0, we're going to have to play perfectly to end this one. Did that happen though? No, it did not. We are struggling with the guys that we have out there on the field. Even the seniors, we're not catching that, and we shouldn't be catching that. Nobody that we have out there is supposed to make a play there. I would say that we need to recruit better, but it's all about player development since I'm only allowed to go after these 1-stars. And as we advance through most of the rest of season number 2, I'll be shocked if we pick up another win. We came within like 3 points of taking down Middle Tennessee on the road, but besides that, there was nothing to get excited about. I guess we almost beat Delaware as well, but almost winning doesn't count for anything. We're finishing 1-11 2 years in a row. I'm pretty sure Liberty's just gonna run the conference the entire rebuild, and with new quarterback Dylan Peterson, he threw more interceptions than we had last season, but he also had more touchdowns. I don't think I can start him as a senior though. Our rushing totals still look terrible, especially yards per carry. On the receiving side of things, Najee Flowers is starting to stand out, but he's also leaving us as a senior, and I think the right thing to do is firing both of these coordinators. They have gone 2-22 in their career. They don't belong here. Like you'd imagine as well, there's been no issues bringing in these 1-star prospects. We haven't even had to compete for one of these players. We're going to sign 26, and that should be plenty, especially since I can't scout them and know how good they actually are. Some of them might be coming in extremely slow, but with a dude like that around, they're going to develop faster, and they're also going to get some stat boosts, which is why I started looking for that exact same coordinator build on the defensive side of the ball, and we have found it. There won't be any help from these two whenever it comes to recruiting, but we have not needed it, and I think it's going to be a long time before we get to a 2-star team prestige, let alone win a national championship. I knew the transition to FBS wasn't going to be easy. I don't love that we're losing a class of like 40 seniors with most of them being starters either, but I do have some good news. We have raised our team prestige from 1 stars to 1.5 stars out of nowhere. It certainly doesn't make much sense to me, and I'm extremely confused how this kid in the transfer portal has already committed to Missouri State, even though we haven't been able to go after him. He literally put himself on our team. I've never seen anything like that, but these 1-star transfers start off at like their top 3 periods, so that's why. I don't think EA ever expected many people to recruit a lot of kids like this, but we aren't doing as bad as Eastern Michigan, who somehow finished with a lower ranked class than we did. I've also lucked out with one of these signings, as tight end Devin Levine has star development just as a 1-star, which means we'll redshirt him for a year as he sits behind the transfer that just came in, and then he could turn into a 4-year starter. I can't forget about Bobby Bloom either. I said I was going to put him out there no matter what. So it doesn't matter that LaMichael Gideon's a 66. It doesn't matter that Dylan Peterson's a 73. They're going to be below him. The biggest surprise from player progression though was Cole Maher, the freshman free safety, jumping up to an 80 overall, our highest overall player. player. And I can only assume that the freshman doesn't have much more room to grow, but apparently he does. We have lucked out with him, because if we take a look at another player like Devin Allen that we recruited last season, as a 65 overall, almost all of his skill caps are already full. And we leveled up a lot during those training results. It gave us so much XP that we have 140 coach points to spend, but I'm not sure I want to use them all in Tactician. The reason for that is Architect's Tier 2 Limitless can be an amazing tree to go down for the chance to increase random skill caps, but I still decided I wanted our overall to get as big of a boost as it could right now. And I think you level up a lot more whenever you have these motivator skill trees filled out. That's at least what I've noticed. It is a little ridiculous that on normal coach XP speed setting, you can get to a level 28 after 2 1-11 seasons. But we need all the help that we can get, especially with this schedule, or else we're never going to make any progress. When it comes to recruiting, we are losing 9 seniors, but we have 59 freshmen and 0 team needs on the defensive side of the ball. So since I'm still limited to only going after 1-star prospects, I think I'm just going to sign like 5 or 10. It just feels like so many of these 1-star prospects are the same, terrible, but we did find J. Marcus, a gym receiver that's also a physical archetype 6'4" with 86 speed. I would normally hate 86 speed, even for recruiting 1-star receivers, because you can see that we have guys faster than that, but he'll be able to catch jump balls. And who other are those jump balls going to come from than Bobby Bloom? He doesn't have the best accuracy potential. He is already capped out, and I did just notice he's 5'9". But I'm also 5'9", so there will be no 5'9" slander going on over here. I want to see if we can beat Missouri on the road. I have a pretty good feeling that we're still not to the level where we can even compete with them, but it's worth a shot. And you know what? If we could have moved the ball in this game, we actually put up a fight against them. The issue was we couldn't move the ball, not once. So all the effort that our defense put in to hold them to just 19 points didn't matter at all. We're about to be carried by that side of the ball. It'd be nice if it makes a difference versus Memphis. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but we had more total yards of offense than them and only lost by a point. I was more concerned with what we do in the conference games though, so we started simming. We beat Kennesaw State by 2 points, which means we have at least a win. But if we happen to lose this game against UTEP, we're not going to be bowl eligible the rest of the year. That would just mean that this season's already over. You can see that we've handled recruiting. I signed the 9 1-stars I went after, including J. Marcus. So if we can't beat the Miners, we're just going to get into season number 4. I will leave it at this. I have not missed playing with just 1-star prospects ever since that 1-star rebuild challenge, because I just cannot move the ball very well with them. This playmaker could have been beautiful, but Bloom is still a young quarterback. He's going to miss passes like that, and the only thing I've been able to effectively do is run. I'm still going to try to pull off the comeback at the end of the game, but I just don't see it happening for us. I'm motioning him over to block, and I'm ready to rely on our defense for the first time in this game. As you can see though, they were not very effective with what we needed. We've given up a touchdown, and that was after they took a ton of time off the clock, so we weren't winning. If we keep on playing poorly like this, we're never going to reach a 2-star team prestige, though we did get our second win against Jacksonville State, and I was hoping that meant that we didn't finish at the bottom of the conference, but we still did, and Liberty went 5-7. With them falling off, I'm honestly shocked that our conference is still ranked above the Sun Belt, the Mountain West, and the MAC, but we need it to stay that way, and I just want to find a quarterback that throws more touchdowns than interceptions. I can finally give some credit to somebody though. We have freshman running back Taven Swoop averaging 3.1 yards per carry. This is the most yards we've seen out of a running back. So even if his yards per carry was terrible, we'll take it, and we also have a couple freshmen near the top of our receiving yards. When it comes to graduation, we are losing our entire starting offensive line, which means we're going to have to develop some other offensive linemen. And I feel like it's a waste of time to go after these 1-star transfers that are only going to stick around for a year. I said last season we found our future at tight end. We have impact on J. Marcus. I'm sure he's going to be the only 1-star that has a dev trait. And some of these quarterback overalls are so disappointing to see. If you're coming in as a 54, I might as well put you somewhere else and just let you develop there. With the training results, we ended up shooting up to a level 37, so going down this motivator tab really is a cheat code. I have 110 coach points and literally nothing to spend it on since we don't want to go down the recruiter pathway. But maybe I want to explore talent developer in the future. We just have to have 2 players drafted in the first round first. That could be a long shot, but we'll see how well these guys are progressing. You have to keep in mind that all of them are getting like +3, +4 overalls from our tactician boosts. And in Bobby Bloom's case, he is getting a +6 to his overall, where he has already been capped out at an 80. The thing about this current team though is it's extremely young. We only have 5 juniors, 2 seniors, and it's the best that we have ever had. So it just defeats the purpose of recruiting many players until we can get this team up to a 2-star prestige. We're still sitting at 1.5 stars, but I feel like with a good year, we could bump it up. And I will always scout athlete quarterbacks over normal quarterbacks for one reason. In this group of complete bums, I have found a guy like Steven Hicks that is a Bobby Bloom replacement. And then we have these 2 gyms who have terrible stats, so we probably won't touch them, but Jeff Lawson has 87 short accuracy, so it's another guy we could use. I've decided that since gyms are guaranteed impact development or better too, we could just move these athletes to other positions on the field. And it's going to be a tiny class, but like I said, we don't really need it. We should open up the year with a win. It was only by 2 points, but I'm going for 6 of them, so we're not going to play against the bigger schools. We're going to hop into games against some of the smaller programs. And if this happens to be the year that we beat Missouri, I would be stunned. Sure enough, they had no problems handing us our first loss, allowing us to only score 7. And then Arkansas embarrassed us a week later even more, 45-3. But that's okay. If we can go on the road and beat Louisiana Tech, I'd be happy. I should also note, like 3 to 4 weeks into the season, we have somehow signed every single one of these quarterbacks. And that allows our staff to have all of their attention focused on beating the Bulldogs. No matter how good of a coach you are, though, you can't fix broken players. You can't fix a broken offense and a bad quarterback, which is exactly why we find ourselves losing here in the third quarter. We're going down. I have lost all hope. This is why we need some physical receivers to just throw the ball up to, who still drop it. And I take back anything I said about this season being better than last season. If we get 3 wins, that'd be a miracle. All of our young guys need more time to marinate. They need more time to develop their skills to be better. So I'm just letting them do that. I'm not going to sit here and hyperanalyze losing season after losing season after losing season. And all of those sim matchups, we could not come out on top of one of them. But I noticed something. Louisiana Monroe is only 2-6, so that is an opportunity to shine. They're so clueless that they're just going to let us run it in. No one was even on that side of the field. But we started celebrating a bit prematurely because this game is very far from over. They're going to be on a 4th and 2. And if they convert here for a touchdown, that's going to be a problem, which I should have been on. A fumbled kick return gave them another 7 points, though they must have missed an extra point, then gone for 2. Because with 4 minutes left, they're sitting at a 22-17 lead. And I know I love going for these deep passing plays, but I've got to stop doing that whenever we have a team of 1-star prospects. They just can't get open the way that they need to, but they've set in a blitz, so Joe Burfict's gonna get open. That was some great route running. And just with the way that their defense is aligned, I feel like they're giving us a look at a touchdown, assuming this ball is on target. The 2-point conversion is pretty important, though. I like to see our offensive line blocking like that. And they have been terrible with their clock management, which is great news for us. If they don't get this 4th and 5, it is all over. I know it might not seem like it's special or anything, because we've already made it clear we're not making it to a bowl game. But if Bobby Bloom is ever gonna thrive, he needs to have moments like that. He had a great clutch throw, and maybe we could even pick up one more win to finish this season, which is what we've done. It wasn't against Delaware, but FIU, 24-6. That might be our largest win yet. We might be taking baby steps, but we're making progress. Liberty, once again, 5-7. Louisiana Tech starting to take over the conference, and that makes me feel a lot better about how we lost to them. I also know our coordinators both have the F grade on their coach prestige, but you can't seriously expect me to fire 2 coaches that have their skill trees almost all maxed out. I didn't realize how much faster you gained XP if you just went down the motivator tab. And look at that. Bobby Bloom has done it. We have been waiting for a quarterback to have the more touchdowns than interceptions. He had 16-9. On the rushing side of things, he had a couple rushing touchdowns too. Taven Swoop wasn't any more impressive. And Devin Allen stepped up as our wide receiver 1 with Joe DeMar and Joe Burfict right behind him. I didn't forget about Devin Levine either. He has his star development with almost no more room to grow as a 70 overall. It's a little disappointing. But I have a couple theories and position changes I want to test out that could change that. Before we get there, though, we have to say goodbye to our punter. We have to say goodbye to this guy that sat on the bench for years. But who knows? Maybe he was our locker room guy that kept this team together, even though we haven't had success yet. We also have a 1-star transfer I'm interested in because he's a freshman. So Stephen Casey has joined this recruiting class of just 5 players, and nobody had higher than impact development. I can also see from this screen that we've fallen down to 1-star prestige, so we're gonna have a hard time jumping straight to 2 stars now that we're no longer at 1.5. And I really wanted to put some of these athlete quarterbacks at other positions, but the best I can do is tight end. They're really slow, so we can't make them receivers or running backs. We'll see how they develop, and it is time for my first theory. Devin Levine is being moved over to a left tackle. I'm curious what happens if he develops blocking skills for a year, and then we move him back to tight end. And then when it comes to Bobby Bloom, I'm actually going to make him a linebacker and then move him straight back to quarterback. If my theory is correct, he's going to go from a scrambler tendency to a field general tendency, which could give him some more ability abilities or skill caps. And as you can see, he now has platinum sleight of hand. He also has silver pull down. We'll look at his actual ratings though, and he still can't increase anything besides elusiveness. My final theory I want to put to the test is moving all of our left ends to right ends and then moving all of our right ends to left ends. And the reason I did that was to see how they progress. We've leveled up to a 43 though, which means we got up to like 170 skill points. It would not hurt us to max out the tier 4 for all of these motivator positions. And to be honest, I think it's worth investing all your stuff in that tree if you progress this quickly once you have it. I think for a while we're even going to be sitting on coach points until we unlock some other stuff in the coach trees. You're going to see that senior rusher Trevor Manley's up to an 87, 91 with all the tactician stuff. And I feel like all of our rushers progressed a little bit more ever since we flipped them to the other side. At left tackle, Devin Levine's also a 72, so when we move him back to tight end next year, I'm hoping he gets up to like an 80, 85. And it's starting to dawn on me that if we don't have a successful year this year, next year I'm going to have to sign a huge recruiting class because we have 34 juniors. I've been doing my best to hold off until we hopefully crack that 2-star prestige so I can go after some 2-star prospects. But I just can't imagine this season being much different than last year after seeing how much we've progressed each season. We've yet to have a year that we get more than one win than we had the previous year. So that's why I'm so skeptical, but if we can start with a win, I think that helps. Now, there is no reason this one should be close in the third quarter. You'll see it's 12-0. But we have come so close to scoring a touchdown 4 times and just had to settle for field goals. I can't let that happen 5 times in a row. No more dumb holding penalties or losing yards. Because our defense has played so well, they don't deserve for this to be such a tight matchup. Here we go though, 3rd and goal. They've sent in a blitz. I didn't see it until late. And this sums up how the entire game has gone so far. On the flip side though, on the offensive side of things, they literally just can't move the ball. And as I'm saying that, they get it right over our head, which should have been a lurked pick. Now, the vice alternates look super good, so I'm glad we're getting this close up. But if you're wondering how this game can be so tight, even after all the dominating we've had, this is it. They tied up with 6 minutes left. No one guarded him. And I am not happy about the situation we find ourselves in, but we're hanging on. We really needed that right there. Levine is also getting open, though I put that in a very tight window. And I figured out that even as a left tackle, I can start him at tight end. We're going to have the curl route on 3rd down, which sets us up to kick another field goal. 6 in one game. There is a decent chance that we're able to win off of that, but this should have been over. And we'll see what they give us on 3rd and 5. I was hoping to roll out and just throw it over there, but instead, we're going to have a blocker lined up, and I'll take the touchdown. Bobby Bloom is exactly why I wanted a quarterback that could run. But we're in a little bit of trouble now. With 30 seconds left, they have managed to get inside our red zone. I'm hoping that we can get the sack. And this formation that they're out there in makes me so nervous because everything's spread out. It is extremely hard to see everything, to guard all parts of the field, though I knew where they wanted to go. And this is it. 4th and 11. We could end it right here, which we're going to do. They're letting us come straight to the ball, and I might even try to return it too. Missouri State's making noise to start the year. And I know that shortly after this game, we have an FCS school on our schedule, so we might be able to start 2-0. Right before that, though, we have to play UAB. They're an 84 overall. And we might not have been able to beat them. We didn't even score a single point on them, but it's not a conference game, so it's okay. That can be our focus this year, which means we'll also skip over playing Missouri. And there is actually no way. We beat them 6-3 in overtime. Nobody could get a touchdown once we got there. That's our first time beating the Tigers. I don't think we could be in a better position at the moment. You're also going to see a ton of athletes on our board. So let me introduce 1-star quarterback Stephen Vaughn with 93 throw power and 85 speed. The best stats we've had on a 1-star so far. We also have this physical receiver, 85 speed. And then we have Dwayne Russ. He's a gym that'll help out our defense. But more importantly, as we get to the bottom of our board, you're going to see a full starting offensive line that I'm recruiting. I want to make sure if we can't get up to a 2-star team prestige, that we still have depth at a lot of positions. And the only way to have players that are worthy of starting 3 to 4 years from now is recruiting them at this moment, so that's why I filled up our board. This game right here, though, there was a reason I wanted to hop into it. We're up 21-3. And despite Sam Houston being an 84 overall, they're not playing like it. My favorite part about using this team has been our defense, also our tight end. And Devin Levine is only going to get better next season when we can move him back over to the position actually. I don't know why I tried to go for a Moss there. I was giving the Bearcats chances to get back into it to try and come back, but they never made any noise. And Bobby Bloom is starting to hit his prime. If you take away my user errors, he's having a fantastic season. And I was really hoping that Liberty would continue to fall off, but they beat us. I allow myself to hop into up to 3 regular season games a year, so we can still play another one this season, hoping to make it to the Conference USA Conference Championship. But more importantly, if we could just get to a bowl game, that's all that I want. By the time that the last couple weeks of the season have rolled around, down. We're sitting at 5-5. We've lost a lot recently. But between Western Kentucky and Delaware, I know that we can pick up one win. And it would be so sweet if it came against the Hilltoppers, because that'd still give us a little chance at the conference championship. From a recruiting standpoint, I don't even know if I need to say it anymore, but there was no resistance on any of these 1-stars. We're signing everybody that we want. And I'd really appreciate if we could get 2 stars next year, assuming we have a strong finish to the season. With a couple minutes left in this one, we find ourselves in a 17-17 game, but we can't catch it. And I'm not sure what Western Kentucky is doing with that alignment over there in the backfield, but it's going to make it super easy for us to get to like the 30. I like this spot that we're in, but we still have to be able to finish this one out. We're not going to run for a first. So that means having to settle for a field goal, which we will at least hit. If anything's worked in this game for us, it's been sending blitzes, and we have done it right here. We have forced the ball loose. We're going to scoop it up with Ali as well, and that should be it. If anything, they're going to get the ball back with like 10 seconds left, unless we got the first. But that's okay. They won't have enough time to do anything. It was our defensive stop that really sealed things. And I can proudly say that Missouri State is bowl eligible for the first time since moving up to the FBS level. Delaware's trying to do the same thing. If they beat us, they would be in the exact same spot. So I don't even think I can get frustrated that they played their hearts out to take us down by 7. It might have ended up affecting our spot in the conference championship, but we would have been in like a 4 or 5 way tie. And you know, all that excitement I had for us to get to a bowl game, well, it's all going to be thrown out the window because we didn't make it to one. That is right. I'm sure there's plenty of other 6-6 teams that did, but not us. And I don't know why, but it's got to motivate Bobby Bloom and everybody else that's going to be a senior on this roster to have an incredible senior year. A lot of our most talented players on this roster are redshirt juniors, so they really only have that final season left. But I can't overlook what freshman receiver Kentrell Etienne just did. He had 10 receiving touchdowns, which is the most we've had out of a player yet. It was a great year for him, and even without the bowl game, we overachieved what I thought we'd do. But there's a few key seniors on our defense that we're losing to graduation, including our best player, Trevor Manley. That might sting. I was really hoping he'd be our first player to get drafted into the NFL. And for the first time, there's not a single 1-star transfer that would even consider coming to Missouri State. At least when it's all said and done, since I went after so many athletes, we're going to have a very powerful defense. And I'm hoping I can prove the reason for that. Anybody that is listed as a speed rusher after a few years that used to be an athlete, we just move over to our defensive line and they jump up a ton in overall, which you should see soon with Mike Maddox. But first, Devin Levine is going back to playing tight end and he gets up to a 92. This is a great strategy. Considering we haven't even won a bowl game yet though, the fact that we're level 50 is ridiculous. And sure enough, look at that. What did I say? Mike Maddox is up to a 94 overall. This team has got to be good enough to compete in Conference USA. And if it doesn't, we're in serious trouble because we have 34 seniors. We almost have to sign a class of a lot of players no matter what. I really just want to crack 2-star team prestige. We're at 1.5 stars right now. I want to be able to go after 2-star prospects. But we're going to have a successful season first, probably winning Conference USA, so we'll see how that goes. Opening things up against FCS West, it'd be a disappointment if we lost here. But what I'm more interested about is how we do against Missouri since we were able to beat them last season. Just taking a look at the preview for this game, they're an 87 overall versus our 81. But we know those calculations don't mean much on this game, and I am disappointed to say that we lost by 1. Then over on the recruiting side of things, I've already signed like 10 1-stars because I said we had to fill up our board with a lot of them, which is what I've done, but we have to be able to beat 0-3 North Texas on the road. We handled them extremely well though, 55-13. And look at Bobby Bloom, almost 400 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, so he is more than shown out for his senior year, and if I'm remembering right, we beat Sam Houston last season. We played them on the road too, so I'm not sure why we're playing there again, but it's worth hopping into. And that's mainly because I don't want to have to start off conference play with a loss, but we're going to be on a 4th and 3. Pretty rough game offensively so far. Our star tight end though is going to bring this in, take us to the 40. And I might just be staring down Devin Levine on this drive. I don't know why they're leaving him open. It works for me though. It's allowed us to move the ball a little bit so far. That could have been intercepted. And on 3rd and 10, I'm going to take our slant the second the ETN cuts. Lots of pressure in these final 2 minutes, man-to-man coverage over on that side. And we should probably burn through some clock before we try and get into the end zone, which means we got to stay in bounds. With Levine playing left tackle for a season, at least his position being there, he was able to help us block for this tutty. And I think every tight end in my future rebuilds will be a left tackle for at least a season. It was the best thing we could have done. We're also getting the interception, which should end the game. And it might have been a rough first 5 seasons, but I feel like everything is starting to come together for Missouri State. That's all because the players I've recruited, like Taven Swoop, are seniors. And I'm very curious to find out how we'll do against Liberty and Sim this time around. Even if it was close, I felt like we'd built a strong enough roster to take them down. We're probably going to play against FIU and Middle Tennessee just because those are the 2 5-1 teams left on our schedule. And you all know how we're going to get to a 2-star team prestige, winning a conference championship. If we're going to make it there by winning those 2 games, I think we'll be fine. But who knows? There could be some other underrated teams in our conference that end up taking us down. Here at Pitbull Stadium, they've had a Lambo out there on the field before. Our offense is playing like they want to get a Lambo through the transfer portal. That's how we're ending the half. And they have literally done nothing that shows they're going to make this a competitive game. You just can't let a team get away with stuff like that. We coasted through most of the second half. And they've made this sort of fake comeback here at the end, trying to make the score look a little bit tighter, but we know we were always going to win. It should have been like 34-6, but it is what it is. We had some backups out there too. And I didn't realize how easy it was to throw it up to Carlos. Missouri State's recruiting poll on some of these 1-stars now is just blowing other teams out the water. We have been able to sign 27 prospects in the span of like half the year. So we no longer have that to worry about, and it's time to sim to the Middle Tennessee game. I figured we'd lose another one at some point by 2 points to Jacksonville State, but we beat Louisiana Monroe, which means we're bowl eligible again with 6 wins. And I wish I could say we were a lock for the conference championship, but we're gonna have to fight to get there. That would all start with a win on the road at number 12 Middle Tennessee State, the highest ranked opponent we've had to play. And if there was any game in this rebuild that meant a ton, it would be this one right here. That is why it is only right that we have set ourselves up to start this one up 14-0. And if we can keep up this momentum, they're gonna get destroyed. I mean, I figured they'd be a little bit overrated, but I was not expecting us to do this to them. We're down to the 4. And 21-0 is coming awfully soon. That's a great throw. It's kinda a shame that this one couldn't turn into a classic, but they're trying to still pull off a comeback at the end. And we have to put our foot down, make sure that they can't pull that off as they're about to take a sack. As long as our offense gets us off to a good start, our defense normally does the rest from there. And that stop's gonna do it. We're back in first place in Conference USA. It's a shared position though, so we cannot lose again, which will most likely happen when I sim. You all know how hard it is to win with a team of 1-stars. Kennesaw State is not ruining this season for us though. We were able to beat them by 3. And there's a 3-way tie for first place, so we just need Louisiana Tech or Middle Tennessee to lose another one. If that happens, we should be a lock for the conference championship. And I was extremely afraid that Delaware was going to shock us, but we beat them by 5. We have also found ourselves ranked inside the top 25 for the first time. Now, I wish we were up there with Middle Tennessee around 15, because that'd give us a shot at making the college football playoffs, but this works too. I'm seeing a pop-up that shows we're in the Conference USA Conference Championship, and what that means is we were able to take down Western Kentucky by 3 possessions. We've also finished in first place. I'm not sure why every team in our conference isn't playing the same number of games, but it's all good. What matters now is we beat the Blue Raiders for a second time this season. The last time that we faced them, we had no issues getting off to a hot start, but they've been a bit more aggressive with the pressure they're sending, so we're stuck getting 3. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but with a minute 15 left on the clock, we are still stuck at 3 points. They adapted to stopping our offense so well. That's right. If we can't convert on this 4th down, this entire match is just over. It's another drop. And I really don't want to talk about it. That was disgusting. Everything just felt hopeless, and now our team prestige might not go up. But at least we drew Texas State in our bowl game, and how did we get up to number 14 after a loss? That alone lets me know that if we could have won that game, we probably would have been a playoff team. Guys like South Alabama, Louisiana are in here. And most years I'd be happy about the Bahamas Bowl, but it makes it a little bit harder to be this season. For whatever reason, it said we're a 75 overall going into this game. We better not play like it. And we really haven't. We have learned from what we went through last week to never play that bad offensively again. But there is a reason that we struggled, and that's Bobby Bloom. He has 2 interceptions in this game as well. So I'm kind of glad that next year we get to find somebody else. He will always be remembered for the guy that got us our first bowl win at Missouri State, but nothing more than that. And it's crazy how good of a year he would have had if we could just take those interceptions out of the mix. From the rushing side of things, 1,000 yards for Taven Swoop as a senior. And then I told you, Carlos was having his breakout season, over 1,000 yards for him, 12 touchdowns, a new Missouri State school record. But we could have been where Middle Tennessee State was, getting 51 dropped on their head in the first round. As a lot of these seniors leave, I think that's going to be a super hard pill for them to swallow. None of these guys will get drafted, but some of them will become a part of a practice squad or two. And take a look at our team prestige, 2.5 stars, which means we can finally go after 2 stars. For our first 2 stars in this rebuild, we got to go to the transfer portal, see what we can land. And since I'm not sure who our starting quarterback's going to be yet, I have thrown Joey Edmond on here just in case he turns out to be our best option. There were actually a couple close battles, but I ended up signing all 6 of the new 2-stars. And recruiting class rankings finally mean something to me again because we are no longer at the very bottom. Just seeing that Joey Edmond comes in as a 67 overall junior transfer though, I'm never going after 2-star transfers again. And I'm actually really excited to see where Mike Maddox and Devin Levine get drafted after this next year because I think they could both be first-round picks. The only reason that's so important is I have 205 coach points to spend and I want to unlock this talent developer tree, but we have to have 2 players drafted in the first round. So we'll see how that works out. With 21 seniors as well, we can get close to signing a full recruiting class. I'll probably sign as many 2-stars as I can. And I'm just really hoping the stats on these quarterbacks is much better than what we've been working with. It's really not fun using starting quarterbacks under these circumstances. I thought Stephen Vaughn was the answer for this program, but it's actually going to be Jeff Lawson because he has the highest accuracy of any of those 3. We're about to have a ton of holes on this roster though. You can see with our running back position, once these 2 seniors leave, it is a massive drop off. And it's going to be that way for most positions, but just looking at the base stats of most of these 2-stars so far, they are a little bit better than the 1-stars. In fact, they turned out to be incredible because we got Nick Escobar with his 95 throw power, 86 short and medium accuracy as a freshman, and then there's these receivers with 94 speed, 95 speed. This wasn't possible before. I also believe that some of these running backs, especially the gyms, have a chance to have star dev, elite development, and that would really take Missouri State to the next level, but we're about to see how we do without all our seniors. We still have a decent bit of good talent out there, but it's not enough to beat Arkansas. Thankfully, we bounce back the next week. And it might seem important to play the Tigers, but I'd rather focus on trying to win our conference. That's how I believe we can get up to a 3-star prestige, especially since we're losing this. And we all know what the most important matchup on our schedule is going to be. Middle Tennessee, who's 5-0, ranked number 11. The last time they played us here, they beat us in our conference championship game. We were only able to score 3 points against the Blue Raiders. And that's why it would be so nice to finish off this first half with a touchdown, but we're taking a sack. Middle Tennessee State's just been dropping back into coverage really successfully. That's a great throw though. And with 10 seconds left on the clock, we probably have 2 plays left in us. We're going to hope that our running back can get this, but it was a second too late, so now we're going to hand it off and we will get into the end zone. If it wasn't for that moment, going into the 4th quarter, we would be trailing by 2 possessions. That's caught. And I can see why the Blue Raiders have been so dominant recently. Their defense has clamped us up throughout most of the game. There is part of me that knows we can still pull this off though. We're running for another touchdown. And with a 1-point lead, I feel like we're in a decent spot. It really comes down to moments like this on defense where I have decided their quarterback is going to get instant pressure. He knew it though. He's escaped and gotten to the 25. We might still be able to prevent them from getting a touchdown, but I don't understand how we had that free of a rush and couldn't sack him. It's going to put us down by 2 points with about 6 minutes left, except they've missed the field goal. And I started running the ball so we could hopefully burn through some clock, but we immediately had a penalty. I feel like Missouri State just doesn't want to let good things happen to them. I'm not sure why we have to deal with issues like that. I teach these guys to play football the right way, and we're on a 3rd down. With no speed to beat them deep, there's only one receiver I'm going to look in the direction of. How did he get to that ball? We had a ton of separation. Maybe it just wasn't placed well, but that's ridiculous. They'd score a touchdown after that and also get us on a 3rd and 23, which is going to be hard to pick up. But I have a plan for 4th down. There's only one person I want to give a chance to catch this ball, and it's out of reach. At the end of the day, Jeff Lawson sold this game for us. And we should be worried because if we drop back down to 1.5 stars as a program, I can only go after 1-star recruits again. With that in mind, instead of just going after 26 players, one at almost every position, I'm going to fill out the board. We're going to sign 35 2-stars. And it would be so sweet if we could go on the road and take down undefeated Kennesaw State. I knew that losing all those seniors was going to affect this roster, but I thought we'd pull off a couple more wins. And fortunately, it seems like they've showed up to play a little bit better in this one. We have a 4-point lead with about 8 minutes left, and we're trying to get another touchdown. There's just zero consistency out of Jeff Lawson, so we're going to our tight end. That ball was also knocked loose, though. Maybe we should be trying to scramble. I know that he has a little bit of speed, and ever since that moment, we have been in complete control. We're also going to get another touchdown here, so we have put up more than enough points to win. But credit also goes out to our defense for holding them to 6. I still have a feeling with our sophomore quarterback, we're going to struggle the rest of the year, but I can only hop into one more game, so his struggling is out of my control. I never imagined that it would get this bad though. We have lost 3 straight games before beating Jacksonville State, so we're 3-6 going into our final 3 matchups. And I just don't see this team winning those final 3 games since we have to play both Louisiana Tech and New Mexico State. If we can somehow take the Bulldogs down on the road though, I'll hop into the final game of the year. And there it is, a 29-21 loss. We bounced back in our final 2 games, but I'm assuming our team prestige is about to drop a bunch since we didn't make it to a bowl. And I can't believe that last year we were in the conference championship against Middle Tennessee, and this season we couldn't come close. As quick as we were able to rise with Missouri State, we fell off just as fast. And that's why I'm extremely thankful that I have been able to sign all 35 of these players, so we're going to have a bunch of 2-stars coming into our program even for when our team prestige drops. Jeff Lawson just wasn't my favorite quarterback in the world. Since he's a sophomore, I guess he still has time to improve. From a running back perspective, Owen Skaggs is leaving. He's a senior. And so are 3 of our 4 biggest receiving targets, including tight end Devin Levine. The only guy that's sticking around is Kentrell Etienne, who got injured. And that's with a broken toe, out for 5 weeks, but he's not gotten any better since he was a freshman. I just find it mind-blowing with how good our coaches are, with maxed out coordinators, that we are still struggling for success. And this season, Middle Tennessee was able to beat Notre Dame, but then they lost in the next round. They're the team to be worried about in our conference. I'm very curious if we're going to get a couple first-round picks. It looks like Devin Levine's supposed to go in the second. But those 2 aren't the only losses that we're dealing with. We're taking a big hit to our roster. After losing 30-something seniors last year, we just lost another 21. We also did not get what we needed. But I think it's okay. It would probably be a waste to spend any points in talent developer because I want to get down to tier 3 and tier 4, but that just means players will progress faster. That'd be useful if I was recruiting 4- and 5-star prospects, but 1- and 2-star prospects don't need to get better faster. Their skill caps get maxed out in a year. And it's nice to see that we're not at the bottom of the recruiting rankings anymore, but how is Middle Tennessee State maintaining all this success with the 91st best class? At some point, they're going to have to start struggling again. Nick Escobar comes in as a 72 overall quarterback. Not sure if he's going to start immediately, but it's nice to know that we have that option. And look at our starting running back room. This is going to be terrible. After training results, we're just going to have to hope that somebody can jump up in overall. At the quarterback position, Jeff Lawson's still set to be our starter. We're going to be putting Chuck Justin with his 86 speed out there. And I'm going to have to figure out how to get rid of some players because we're over the roster size limit. To be honest, it'd almost be better to cut the running backs that are slow on here so we can start the freshmen that are lower overalls. And I wasn't planning on doing much recruiting, but our team prestige has stayed at 2.5 stars. That's incredible. We only have 7 seniors though and 5 juniors. Lots of freshmen, 55 of them, so we're going to probably have to keep those guys around for a while. And that's going to mean that I can't sign a big class, but that's perfectly okay. I'm a redshirt as many dudes as I can. I feel like I can basically guarantee that this year's going to go poorly, but the worst news possible is struck before I could put any hours on guys like Spencer Dogg, the best quarterback prospect we found yet. We got locked out. We also were finding some 2-star receiving gyms, but we got locked out of the 95 speedster. And thankfully, we've still been able to find some good targets. It certainly isn't going to be as exciting as it was supposed to be, but we have 7 prospects lined up to replace the 7 seniors. And that's all that I'm going to worry about recruiting this season. We'll see how we open up the year. It might have started with a win, but I'm also going to sim against Missouri and Memphis because we got to get to conference play. I want to make it back to the conference championship game. That's the only place where I'm hoping to have success now. And I figured we'd lose both those matchups, but it might not be the case. Against Memphis, we had players of the week on both sides of the ball. So even though Missouri took us down in overtime 34-31, a week after, we beat ranked Memphis on the road, and we needed it. Since the team that I replaced Missouri State with was Arkansas State, that counts as a rivalry win. If we beat them 3 more times, we'd unlock the architect tree. And considering that we've been stuck recruiting just 1- and 2-star prospects, that's probably the only way that they're going to improve to a championship level. This might be a hard year ahead of us, but all we can worry about is winning. And the moment of truth, how good this roster actually is, will all come to fruition against Western Kentucky. With about 5.5 minutes left, we find ourselves in a tied 13-13 game, but we still have to get into field goal range. And that basically guarantees that even if we can't reach the end zone on this drive, we will have a lead versus the Hilltoppers, which is all I wanted. From an offensive perspective, it certainly has not been our most impressive performance. But the longer that this drive goes on for, the better that we're sitting. We've gotten it down to 2 minutes left. And this is a very important 3rd and 9 where we're going to roll out. I'm going to playmaker our drag route, and I don't think that throw is going to be on target. It was worth taking a shot at the end zone, though. They couldn't get the interception. We're still getting a field goal. And they find themselves in a really difficult spot. 3rd and 15. Way too much time back there. I feel like I'm going to have to make a play myself. But it turns out we're eventually going to get that sack. They have a long way to go. If they take a check down, we'll make the tackle. You got to at least get the ball out here. And I don't like what I'm seeing. Though we have a defensive back right there, Conrad's going to get the interception, and Western Kentucky is pretty much out of hope. They are going to be in a position to get this ball back with not much time left since we're not getting the first. But a good punt right here basically ends this game. We don't normally get any punting clips out of me, and that's why. We can't necessarily write them off yet. They could still have some huge gains against us. We'll see if they get out of the pocket. And that sack did it. The Bears defense has once again won us a game. We're going to have to keep up that level of play, though, on the road at FIU. And the reason I wanted to play this one against the Panthers is they're currently sitting at 4-1. I didn't want our first Conference USA loss to come against them, though it might happen anyway. And that's because they're not making it easy to move the ball. We've barely been able to run. That throw gets us short. So we have 2 more chances to get 1 yard, and we do. I really wish our offense could just come out and score a lot more. But because they don't, that's how we find ourselves in these positions where a team still has a chance on the final play. Their chance just wasn't too high. After being up 20-7, they made an effort at a last-second comeback. But it's not going to affect us, and at some point, I just have to let this team lose. Until we play Middle Tennessee, I'm just going to have to sim. And just judging by how bad Liberty destroyed us, I can tell this team's not where it needs to be, but we'll still try and take down the Blue Raiders. This might be for a spot in the conference championship, though Jacksonville State has the tiebreaker over us. And worst case scenario, we lose another game that we're not supposed to win. Whenever I made the rules and the restrictions for this rebuild, I didn't realize how much of a long game we're going to have to play before we're ever national championship contenders. But that's the spot that we find ourselves in. We didn't even deserve to be on the same field as them in this game. I'm embarrassed to say that we never scored a single point, but there is an explanation. Jeff Lawson got hurt, so we had to resort to our backup for most of the day. We were simply just outclassed on the field, though. Kennesaw State's 1-10, and I thought that meant we'd get an easy win over them, but we only beat them by 2. This team is going to make it to a bowl game, but we almost don't deserve to be there after losing 4 in a row. And that's really the stretch that ruined the season for us, causing some of our players to consider transferring. We took a shot on them when almost nobody else wanted them as 1 and 2 stars, but that's okay. They have the freedom to move around somewhere else. And I have no idea how we're stuck playing New Mexico State in our bowl game, since that's a conference opponent. I want to face off against teams that we normally wouldn't have a chance to play. And with 2 minutes left, we find ourselves in an interesting position because we are losing this game, though we got the playmaker to work at the last second, and if we can score a touchdown, even right here, we'd take a 1-point lead. That was a huge moment from us. The RPO also almost faked him out, but it didn't. We're going to see if a handoff can get us anywhere before starting to pass again. And of course, the one time that we run the ball, there's holding. Missouri State just doesn't want to be great. That's all I can even consider at this point. And I was hoping that Jeff Lawson could at least put that over his head, but he didn't. He threw it straight at the middle linebacker, so this halfback screen needed to work. The game forced us to use an injury timeout, though, so if we don't pick up this 4th and 7, it is completely over. That's going to be caught in the end zone, and we still lose if we give up a field goal, but we have a lead. With the way that they're moving the ball down the field, we're going to have to force an interception. They're taking like 5 yards at a time, and I could see them kicking a field goal for the win unless we can pick up a sack or something. They throw it away. This is a little aggressive, but if our dialed-in pressure got in time, we could have gotten a sack. Instead, we just got burned, and we might have gotten up to a 3-star prestige if we won this game. I really have no idea how team prestige is calculated, but I want to be able to go after 3-star prospects, and it's going to be a while before we can actually make it happen. We still have 2 timeouts left, so I guess that catch makes a difference. This ball can't be underthrown, though. And I had a specific spot I was expecting Jeff Lawson to put it, just like here, but it doesn't work. They read it. Well, it's another season that's going to be pretty underwhelming, and I've tried so long to stick with this spread offense that we started with, but we might need to transition over into an air raid. I really need that new offense to make a difference for us going forward, because I think it's the only thing that's going to take Jeff Lawson to the next level. He's our leading rusher as well, which makes no sense. But our true freshman running back was no good, and our best 3 receivers are all seniors, so they're gone. On top of losing them, there's a chance that we lose a lot of these transfers. You never know if they're going to come back or not. But to my surprise, we've gotten success on all 4 of them, besides the guy that has a very low chance of returning, so he's gone. The losses really aren't that many, though, because remember, we only had 7 seniors. And I thought everything was smooth sailing until I took a look at our school grades. We've dropped down to a 1.5-star prestige. That means no 2-star transfers for us in the transfer portal. We could only go after the 1-star transfers. And I have no idea if these guys are really worth signing, but because I plan on going after nobody next year in recruiting, these are some of the prospects that we're going to get now. Just like any other time I go after low-rated prospects, we don't lose those battles. But we are on a fast path to falling off because we have signed the worst class in the country. At some point, things have got to get better. I'm going to make our 90-speed tight end a left tackle before moving him back to tight end just so he can develop over there as well. And the current team that we're building seems to be developing well, because for the first time, the highest rated players on this roster will be back next season and maybe even for a season after that. The quarterback position is the only one where we still have some struggles, though Nick has jumped up to an 82 overall as a freshman, and I think it's time to roll the dice on the 2-star quarterback because he has 98 throw power and his accuracy can still go up. In fact, I'm so set on him being our future that I'm gonna let Jeff Lawson transfer and play somewhere else as a senior. We have a new player to build around for at least 4 seasons, so red shirts need to be used smartly. And this is exactly what our roster construction looked like 3 years before we went on that run where we won like 11 games. The only player I'm signing this year is Sterling Vujanovic because we need a third quarterback just in case there's some injuries. But that's literally it, and knowing that this season is mainly focused on development, we're gonna sim through most of it. All I can see right now is we're sitting at 1-0, but that's not correct because we advanced like 10 weeks. We are 3-5. It's what I thought would happen. But wow, we have struggled. The new playbook has done nothing for us. I guess we can try and make it to a bowl still. It'll really just depend whether or not we can win a game like this one. And sure enough, they took us down 23-6. This is going to be the most forgettable season in Missouri State football history. We are never going to talk about it again. And even if I played some of those matchups, I couldn't have saved this team. We almost finished at the bottom of our conference. We're also 9 years into this rebuild, and I don't feel like we're any closer to winning a championship. But Nick Escobar put up these stats as a freshman. Not the worst thing in the world. He also was our leading rusher, just like we dealt with last year. And it's nice to see a couple younger guys like George Tripp and Connor Burgess stepping up on the receiving side. It just really stinks that we haven't come close to making the playoffs after that 1 year. And I should have known some players would try and enter the transfer portal on us. We only have 4 persuasions to convince guys to come back. I definitely wasted a couple of those on these juniors just because I knew they'd be high overalls next year. At least we didn't lose much outside of that. And how have we come full circle in this rebuild? I don't think this has ever happened before to me where we're right back to where we started. 1-star program. No, I'm not going to go after any 1-star transfers. And I'm just glad that we found some stuff that made us successful in previous seasons that we're able to do again. It's certainly been a hard process, but we have been able to put players at all sorts of different positions they weren't at previously. And you might think that our roster looks really good going into this next season, but the one after is where I think it'll really shine. If it doesn't though, that's where trouble is going to strike us because I'm not recruiting for the 2nd season in a row. And the reason for that is I believe that in a couple years we'll be able to sign way better than 1-star prospects. I have no choice but to just put all of my faith into this team. And it's always going to be challenging whenever we play Missouri, but we dropped 76 points on an FCS school and our real conference games are about to get underway. Western Kentucky is 1-3, so I don't think this is worth hopping into. But maybe it was, seeing that they beat us 31-21. It's weird because normally the air raid offense, normally going to Clemson's playbook means we're going to win games, but I don't think it's changed anything, so we're going straight back to Arkansas State. And we get to host this one at home against New Mexico State, which I'll also be hopping into. We are stuck in the exact same situation that we were in our bowl game though. We also don't have our starting quarterback. And that's not even the biggest injury that we're dealing with because our best rusher, Brian Shorter's out for the season with a broken ankle. These are not things I wanted to struggle through whenever I was hoping to have like an 8-win year. But we're just going to have to deal with it, and the wide receiver screen is going to take us all the way to the 5, maybe into the end zone. There it is. We're going to have our 1-point lead. But it is our defense that's gotten them to a 4th and 18. I don't love that I got stuck. We're still grabbing the interception with Randall though, so we're gonna be okay. 1 first down is all it's gonna take to beat New Mexico State. There is a flag. And we saw it happen right in front of us. We knew exactly what was gonna be called. It's ridiculous how many times something like that has happened to us in this video, but it's also okay. And that's because we've gotten it to a 2nd and 5, just 5 yards left, which could come right here. I don't want to punt it back to them. We ran the speed option, and I might as well go for this. I could live to regret this decision, but I am going to trust our offense where I threw it straight at them. And this is not good. If they get into field goal range, we're going to lose another game this year. I knew where that ball was going. Even worse, they didn't hang on to it, so the clock is not going to continue to run. If we could get a sack, that would be beautiful. And you've got to be kidding me. They called an injury timeout for one of our players, so I sent the blitz and it worked. Did I learn anything from the bowl game? Maybe not, but you've got to be aggressive in those situations. And this time around, we're going to be the ones that own New Mexico State. Now, what does that mean for the rest of this season? Potentially nothing. We could lose a lot of games in sim. And it's never a good idea to play the comparison game, but I gotta see how Louisiana Tech is an 85 overall team. Their roster's better than ours. In my opinion, we are extremely fortunate that we didn't lose to them. But I really want to return to the Conference USA Championship, which means we've got to beat Middle Tennessee. This game is it right here. We have lost to them the past few times that they faced us. And with 3 minutes left on the clock, I want to be the one that's in control, but we got to get points. Now, I did not think that ball was going to that receiver. I actually thought it was a different different button. But we got extremely lucky, and we also should be able to pick up the first. You all already know what I'm seeing though. How is it possible to have this many holding penalties? The last update must have broken something because I rarely run the football. And this 3rd and 3 could not be any bigger for us, which we are gonna get because we got out in space. I'm also liking that alignment with that corner right there. I don't know if we're gonna actually be able to beat them deep, but I'm taking that shot. We have a quarterback with a strong arm. How did he get to that first? They'd go on to score a touchdown 3 plays after that. That's right. 3 plays is all it took for them to get one. But I am really just going to have to hope for man-to-man coverage right here because I think Corker could have a speed advantage and he is going to get away from that player. It's close, but it won't matter. All we needed was him to get into the end zone. With the 2-point conversion, I'm being aggressive. It's knocked loose. And that might seem like a terrible decision, but this game's not over. On 2nd and 10, they're literally running the exact same play. We're not going to be able to bring him down in time. So now the game's over, and Middle Tennessee is just the better program. I'm just over losing to them. I'm not sure how we're ever going to break through. So out of frustration, I'm simming to week 15. I figured a conference championship was no longer on the table, but we went on to win our final 5 games, including 63-17 against the Panthers. And we're the team that is sitting atop our conference standings, tied with Sam Houston. Both of us are ranked. I had given up, but clearly I shouldn't have. The fact that we're both here says a lot. And I'd love to see how much our team prestige raises if we can take them down. Of the teams I've been worried about, Sam Houston is not one of them. I'm trying to end this first half the right way. And it was a risk to even snap this ball without any timeouts left, but it could not have been placed more perfectly. Before we ended the quarter that way, our offense was just dead. Now we're starting to move it again. And I'm surprised that as we continue to run, how there's no holding calls. I don't want to jinx it or anything, but they've been far too common. And now that we've made it back to this moment again, we're simply not taking it for granted. I don't love how some of our receivers just struggle to catch the ball, but we have an 89 overall tight end for a reason. And what we have done in the last quarter to take control of this game has been exceptional. It's going to end with us winning 23-3. And I still can't believe how we ended the year in Sims since we've had no luck with that so far. I had really just given up on this team, which is not fair to them at all. We had like 5 different running backs that put up numbers. So we have a pretty split backfield, and George Tripp is actually injured, our #1 receiver. Out with a broken toe, he's not going to get to play in our bowl game. Brian Shorter's still injured for 11 more weeks. And there is no way we've made it to the college football playoffs. I just assumed it wasn't possible with how low we were ranked. But this is huge. Even if we lose this game, I think our team prestige might shoot up to 3 stars. If we can go after 3-star recruits next year, that would literally change everything for us. Playing a snow game in Washington for the playoffs, though, is also a dream. It's going to be stunning out there, and even if it's a bit cold, we could win this. I can't let the stadium pulse get to me, that's for sure, but our tight end is just a man-to-man beater, which means as long as they're running that coverage, he's going to get open for us, and that should lead to the first point. Getting down to the 5-yard line, we know that things are about to get tight. We're not getting much, but we might as well go for a run and see if we can cut that up, which gets us in. We have done it. We have taken an early lead, but ever since that moment, they have had 0 issues when it comes to stopping us, which makes this 3rd and 2 so massive as we find Manapunu. Just 14 yards away from the end zone now. RPOs can also get us a little bit more, and anytime I've tried to run the ball under center, they've blown up the run, but here it gets us a yard. I haven't pulled it out all video, but it might be time to go to Wildcat so we can tie things back up. And I really just wish that they'd stop scoring touchdowns because we're having a hard time keeping up. 9 minutes left in this game though, which is normally a lot of time. I'm just worried that it might only get worse from here. You can see how their pass rush is getting in, which is why I ran. This could be a terrible play call, but we're going straight up the gut. And it is truly a miracle they couldn't even get a field goal after that, but we still haven't come back against them. Being down by 7, I have to consider going for a 2-point conversion depending on when we get in. And that could be an awful decision, so we might just need to score extremely fast. If we do that, I probably won't be as aggressive. I'm not sure where that route was running, but that plus accidentally calling a timeout could really hurt us. Here on 3rd and 6, I think we're going to have our hitch route. I took the slant. I was risky, and I'm going to kick the extra point so we can lean on our defense. That might have been the wrong decision, though. You can see where they're at on the field. We just got to get this sack right here. Their quarterback is so fast, and I can't believe how much time they're letting run off the clock. They can't think that they're in field goal range, can they? I mean, after that run, they're going to be. But what can we do about that? We knew this would probably happen. It wouldn't have mattered whether I went for the 2-point conversion or not. We have pulled out the Wildcat in the hopes of a miracle, but it wasn't there. We have one play to reach the end zone to survive against Washington. 50-50 ball that we can't catch. At the end of the day, I can't be upset with this result. We put up a great fight in a game I didn't even think we'd make. And you know that we're far into a rebuild when East Carolina's winning the national championship. I can can also see from this screen we're only up to a 2-star team prestige, and we're losing some key starters, especially on defense, which really stinks, but I don't think we're going to return to a 5-7 next year like we did after the first time we won double-digit games. The real question, though, has always been, how will this team that we have right now do this next season? I feel like they could carry us back to the playoffs. But Nick Escobar's going to have to take another step forward. He's now up to an 87 overall quarterback, and that's with his accuracy stats maxed out. Preparing for the worst, though, will be crucial, which is why we're going to have to start signing 2-star prospects, even if after this year we're up to a 3-star prestige. If this season doesn't end up going the way that I'm hoping it does, we are going to desperately need these guys. And it's felt like we've played this same non-conference schedule for years, but we have to face Memphis. They're our only rivals. Missouri's an in-state opponent, and then this Louisiana Monroe game is locked into our schedule, so this is what we're stuck with. When it comes to the players that we're going to go after, I will say that things are a bit disappointing. We did find one receiver with 95 speed, but outside of that, even at the quarterback position, these aren't the best stats in the world. But we have to sign a full class of 2-stars anyway. Against Memphis, we're 6 overalls higher, but we were barely able to take them down by just 3 points. That doesn't make me feel great about what's going to happen against Missouri, even though they're a 79. But it's all good. There's nothing to worry about. We held them to 0 points, and then we struggled more with an FCS school. I know that we're continuing to climb the polls, but I feel like at some point we're going to lose a game that we shouldn't. And that could even come on the road at Jacksonville State, who's 1-3. Fortunately for us, though, we scored 20 points in the fourth quarter to secure this. And then over on the recruiting side of things, we are getting beat out for many different 2-stars. I'm not sure what's happened to our recruiting abilities, but they just aren't as good as they used to be. I've never seen the computer target 2-stars as much as they are right now. And what did I say? We were going to have a loss at some point. FIU beats us by 21 points, so this team isn't any better than last year's. I'm looking at the rest of the schedule, trying to figure out which ones we should actually hop into. And on the road to undefeated Liberty is a no-brainer, but outside of that, I'm not sure. All I want to do with this team this year is get us up to a 3-star prestige so we can go after 3 stars. And I've decided that with the conference we're playing in, we can get away with stuff like that. The awareness of the cornerbacks that we're facing simply isn't that high, and it's allowed us to have a lot of offensive success versus Liberty. But here's the thing, I can't control what we do whenever we have to actually sim. Whenever I hop in, we might dominate on the road at a top 25 program, but that's not going to get us up to a 3-star prestige. And the only thing that will is if we can take down the opponents that we're supposed to. That unfortunately is not happening though. Middle Tennessee beats us by 12. And this was supposed to be our dream season, but we just keep on losing games. All I wanted to do was raise our team prestige up to a 3-star, but we're going to have to wait for a whole other window to do that. And that's why I said it was so important I signed a full board of 2-stars, but it is going so poorly. We have lost out on so many battles. It is a little bit of a relief that we won our next 2 games, but after that, we can only play 2 of these last 3. And the most annoying part about simming against FIU is since we lost that, we're never going to have the tiebreaker over them. Since Kennesaw State's 1-4 in their Conference USA games, it doesn't do us much good to hop into this. But simulating it was almost even worse. I'm not sure why our offense is not showing up. I've done all that I can with it, though our running back situation isn't the best in the world. At wide receiver, we have an 86 overall, one of the highest we've had. And then we have a monster at tight end, but look at this matchup against UTEP. We might control our own destiny. Since Liberty lost another game, we're in a 4-way tie for second place. I'm not sure how the tiebreaker would work at the very end, but what I know right now is if we can win this game, we can get rid of one of those problems. Since I get to control us, our offense will show up for this game. Lots of 50-50 balls. And once we get down close to the goal line, we'll just hand it off for the easy 6. I have to give credit to the Miners though. They've done a pretty good job in this half of also scoring. We just happen to be a little bit better at it. The most effective things that we do is we use a lot of playmakers and a lot of motions, which throws off the defense, gets guys open, and allows us to dominate. UTEP is another team in our conference that's had a solid season. They're probably one of the top teams. But whenever it's under my control, I'm showing that we are a lot better than all of them. As we're going into the final week of the season, you're going to see a 4-way tie for first place in Conference USA. I think we're in the championship, but there is a possibility that we could win this game and still not be there. We know FIU is the tiebreaker over us. Our offense also hasn't been at its best. But for that, I'm going to blame the fact on all the downpour. For a brief second, it gave Western Kentucky hope when they really shouldn't have had any. But after we went up 27-10, I figured we weren't going to blow our lead. Well, it turns out we have made it to our conference championship against number 17 Liberty. And I'm just hoping that we have done enough to get up to that 3-star prestige. Worst case scenario though, what did I say? I was going to make sure that we got as many 2-stars as possible. So even if we are able to recruit 3-star prospects next year, we'll have a solid foundation. I mean, the 2-stars can't be too terrible. They've gotten us to this point. We're about to go up 14-0. And Liberty didn't even score the last time that we faced them. So even though they had a really good season, I was not worried headed into this game. I'm ready to get Missouri State back to the college football playoffs. They sent in a blitz, but they didn't expect us to take our check down. And one thing I have not used much of yet is these quarterback runs, but I'm gonna try it. We just lost the ball. That was ridiculous. He took a major hit, flew back like 5 yards. Understandable though, he should have lost it. And the penalty was against us. That turnover is the only reason Liberty is even in this game with a little bit of time left, but it's not gonna matter. You know I can lurk them for an easy pick. And we should have been able to win by a lot more, but we were never gonna lose. We definitely have our weaknesses. We're not a championship contender, but I'd love if we at least got past the first round in the playoffs, because last year we almost did, putting up a good fight. That is my one goal. East Carolina's quarterback threw for 47 touchdowns. I'm sure we'll see them in the playoffs again. We have a bye. It doesn't really help us since we have to play the winner of Notre Dame and Ball State, which we know is going to be the Irish. Let's not act like this is a shock, but I think it's much better than having to deal with a first round game. And we have prepared for this moment. Our season stats don't look really any different than previous years. They've all been about the same, but it's all good. We have a chance to prove ourselves because I feel like Notre Dame is the best team that is in the playoffs. They only have one loss this year, and if we're going to get to a 3-star prestige, it's by beating them. Based off what I've seen in the first quarter so far, points are going to be hard to come by, especially with the way that their defensive line is screaming at us as we're about to take a sack. It took us until midway through the second quarter to get on their side of the field for the first time, but it's not like we're playing poorly. We are only down by 3 points, and I think scrambling is going to be the only way to move the ball. I hate that it feels like the best viable option, but it really does. We're going to get another 15. Without running with Escobar, we have literally scored 0 points, so we needed it. Nick's been able to make the defense respect him a little bit more with those scrambles as well. That guy got in fast. And I think we're going to be tying things up with a field goal unless we have a miracle on these next 2 plays. The zone coverage is actually harder for us to beat than the man-to-man. Right here, we're running around, getting it out last second. We're at the 2. And it feels like a horrible idea to go for it here, but we have, and we're short. I don't know what type of spotting the refs are on though. They put them at the 3. That was a rough way to end the first half. After all that effort, we were not able to have success. They're leaving our checkdowns open though, which is helpful. And this is exactly why I said we need to be able to recruit better players. Notre Dame's a championship contender, and if it wasn't for our defense, we would be completely out of this game. I'm not sure how much longer we can hold them to 3 points for. We're gonna punch it into the end zone. And sure enough, that has woken them up. They've driven down to our side of the field, but it's okay. If we could just be blessed by a shank field goal right now, it would be amazing. But we weren't, and you know what? I'm gonna take a shot over on that side of the field. We had them beat. It was just a bad throw. That is an unacceptable mistake. We needed that extremely badly. I don't think we can get out of here. And Notre Dame would score the next 10 points. I'm not really sure what to do about it, though we could have a touchdown for the first time off of a deep play. That is our last little bit of hope with 3 minutes left in this one. We have beat the press 2 times in a row, but Nick Escobar is doing us 0 favors. We're going to take our drag underneath instead, and the spin will get us into the crib. Now, what I'm doing here is just being stupid. No reason to go for the 2-point conversion, but we have done it anyway. And they are going to be throwing the ball, not running it, which is actually kind of helpful. It certainly gives me some hope that we can get them off of the field. On 3rd down, we have missed the tackle. That could have gotten us the ball back. That was it right there. We handled things perfectly, and our reward for it was a missed tackle, but it's going to be 3rd and long. I don't see them throwing the ball here, but they have, which means they're going to take their check down. We can get there in time, and there is hope for us to take down one of the best teams in the country with a bunch of 2-star prospects. Now, in order to get this done, there is one thing that we cannot do, and that is taking sacks. We also have to get to the 1st down marker, but if that was a fumble, that could have very easily been game over. We are going to roll out and see if we can get another 10. Right now, being in 5 wide is working for us. Their man-to-man coverage, though, is really locking up, and we still need to be able to get a field goal out of this drive. I'm gonna have to throw this one away. Nick Escobar has not made my life easy today. That is a disappointment. I'm trying to get this one out too, but there was no hope right there. This is it for us. We have to have this go our way, and it's gonna be a 50-50 ball. Secure catch it. He's out of bounds. That might have been the greatest throw and catch of all time, but here's the problem. It all comes down to a field goal right here. I'm locked in. I'm hoping that it's far enough. It looks like it's going to be, and we are going to pull off the win. If you can find a more rewarding and better game on my channel in any of the rebuilds from this year, props to you, but I think this is the top one because we had no business beating the Irish right there. There is no way that they can't give us a 3-star prestige after that. We have Auburn next, and it's starting to hit me that we're 2 games away from a national championship. I know of the 4 teams remaining, we have the smallest odds to win it all, but we could still pull it off. And after how we won against Notre Dame, Auburn does not scare scare me at all. Maybe I should be though, because we have not been able to score once on them, and we have got to figure it out on this drive. It's the closest we've gotten to the end zone as we get in. As we approach the end of the third quarter, they still have their 3-point lead, but we have the ball. We're getting to the 40, and my hope is with Manu Punu motioning over, he draws all of the defense's attention so we can hit our halfback screen, and that's exactly what's worked for us. The fourth quarter is about to start, and we're gonna have to pull off this slant without them getting an interception. I stared him in the eyes, looked at him, and said, "Here's the football, take it back, give Auburn the lead." Wait, we're making the tackle. That is very, very clutch. I almost crashed out mid-play, but it's a good thing I did, because we could have held them to a field goal, but we didn't, and now we are looking to get it back within 3 points. This game has really been a disaster from the defensive side of things, a couple offensive mistakes, but we don't normally give up this many points. On 3rd and 9, they're going to test our corners, and that's something that you just can't do. Nick Escobar's just going to have to wipe that interception from his mind. We need him on target, and what a perfect pass on that 3rd and 10. We also should have our tight end for a huge gain, except they snag it out of his hands. This is the same reason we struggled to score on the Irish, because we'd moved the ball decently and then throw an interception. We've knocked it loose on 3rd down, which gives us another chance and opportunity that we really, really don't deserve. As much as I've tried to make this roster as perfect as possible, we just aren't as good as Auburn. And the inaccurate passes really prove it, but it might not matter if we have an accurate one to Ambrose. We're in. A couple fluky plays is all it takes to pull off an upset. And I don't care if we're technically seated higher, that's exactly what this would be. It's taken them having 3 interceptions themselves. I'm hoping they're going for 4, but it seems like they're about to get a touchdown. I don't think switching to man-to-man coverage is going to help us out too much though. Right here, they didn't have anyone to throw it to, but Stephen Cunningham still did something with it, and they just ran the ball. We forced a fumble. They picked it up. That could have been incredible for us. I thought I was right in front of him, and he gets in instead. I can't take the stress of these tight finishes. It's just week after week. Something doesn't go our way that really needs to. We get our feet in. And we're about to test out how fast Steed is. I see the man-to-man coverage. We will come back to catch this ball if we need to. We all know how much time's left on the clock. It will continue to run on down. This is going to be a sack. But it's okay. I saw something that I liked that I was scared to throw the first time, and we have it here. I really don't want to kick the field goal. I want to end this game with a tutty. And by now, I think we have gone through enough clock. It is touchdown or bust. We've got to come back to this ball. We're also hurrying up an inside zone. Snap it already. I'm trying to. We're wasting so much time. We might only have another attempt at the end zone. But this team is made for these moments. Jet touch pass. They just adjusted to try and shoot through that gap, so we'll cut it up the middle. And once again, Missouri State shows they can close out games. This is a run that we are having. We are so close to winning it all. And Nick Escobar had a solid performance, but those 2 interceptions keep it from being great. By now, Missouri State might even be seen as a 4-star program next year. But if we beat East Carolina in this game, those future seasons will never happen. I really wish I could have spent some of these coach points, the 200 I've had saved up forever, somewhere else, but I can't. And it would help us take down the reigning national champions who also had the Heisman winner. He is what stands between us and having glory with Missouri State. But I should have known neither offense would show up for this game. In fact, we have scored 0 points in the first half. Normally, that'd be a guaranteed loss, but they only have 3 themselves. This ball is perfectly placed, getting us to the 1. And I thought it was about to be the first touchdown, but we're not that lucky. I don't know why it has to be so hard to just get in, but I promise I'm not kicking a field goal. We are going to go for it on 4th down if our run does not make it. Let's just hope our defense holds them to 3 in the second half as well. Or at the very least, we've been able to maintain a couple point lead on them, but we've got to stop them on this 3rd and 5, and I'm sending players. Force a fumble. That really hurts. We couldn't get the ball loose, but they're attempting a super long field goal. They're going to have the leg to hit it. And I can't believe that we are a field goal away from winning a national championship. It's really not too much that has to be done. Of course, this would be so much easier if we had a better second half, but we haven't, so we just have to do it this way. And I'm still going to look for the explosive plays if they're there, because that could lead to some massive gains. We cannot fumble. I don't know why I'm not sliding. That could have been the worst thing in the world. We get the first. And at some point, they will start taking timeouts, though we could have a touchdown, and that would give us a big lead over East Carolina. This is so much better than going up by 2, especially if we can get ourselves the 2-point conversion. We have to throw that. But they were able to block the pass, and they have gotten to midfield. If they score a touchdown in the final seconds, we're losing. Here's the thing, though. Even with all 3 of their timeouts, they've hurried up to the line. They refuse to burn one, and that's good news for us, except they're open over the middle, and we have to let them get in. There is no way this is how we're about to go out. I have a quarterback contained, so they can't get the 2-pointer. But the main damage has already been done. I'm going to try to let this run to the end zone. Clock will not run. So we have 18 seconds to make a miracle happen. We might be better off just throwing up some balls. We beat the press over on the right side. Please, don't be out of reach. Ambrose has done it. We're winning the championship. I knew there would be a reason why I recruited guys with 95 speed, and that's to bail me out for whenever I make terrible mistakes that could have cost us the rebuild. I thought lifting this trophy was going to take us at least 5 more seasons, but we've done it. I've learned that I can win a championship with just 2-star prospects. All of that effort, though, was only enough to get us up to a 3-star team prestige, so we had to win a championship to be able to go after 3 stars, and that just blows my mind. Throughout this entire video, I think we put 4 players into the NFL, and this has got to be the worst quarterback I have ever won a championship with. I know his accuracies don't look like they're the worst in the world, but he was missing everything. Of the 2-star prospects that we looked at, though, this was our best option. And I like the new restriction I set in this rebuild about what prospects I could recruit. If you want to see it in a future one, let me know down below, and check out some of my other rebuilds as well.